because I wasn't quite prepared. I was debating when I was going to start and how to approach it, but I will be back in a moment. I guarantee you that I will return. Okay. The true April Fool's joke here is that I would make it to my own podcast on time, saying that I would start at 5:15 and in fact being here around 5:20 or so. That kind of goes without saying. Most of the time I've started a live cast, I spontaneously start it within 10 minutes of my intention and kind of walk away for a moment, gather the rest of my thoughts at the last moment before I start. And this is a very odd time of day for me to be doing a podcast, so I'm actually doing a live recording of it as well to put on my 15-minute free thinking podcast channel, which if you haven't checked it out, you should. And I haven't uploaded much to that in the last few weeks because I'm just going to be honest, I've been in a weird state of mind over the last couple of months. It's a difficult state of mind to exactly define. I'm not depressed. I'm not stressed out so much. But I'm not what I would call baseline happy. And as I used in the title of this, happiness, of course, is a very fleeting topic, something that I kind of poke fun at. And, I make a lot of light of the idea of happiness as something that's actually attainable because it is a fleeting idea. It's a kind of moment in the sun. Something that once in a while, when you become ecstatic with joy, with a bunch of friends or maybe even alone, maybe you're just laughing by yourself, it doesn't matter. You know that those moments are worth fighting for. You know that those moments are worth living for. Those moments of joy. And the word happiness has been so twisted and convoluted, over the centuries that I don't even think we know what it is anymore. And I have done a lot of thinking over my life, a lot of pondering, trying to understand myself, my world. The unfortunate truth is that the more I've learned about myself and my world, the harder it is to see myself for who I am. In other words, maybe the opposite. Maybe it's easier to see who I am. And it's interesting because there's moments in my life where everything's going great. And, it can have to do with work. It can have to do with diet. It can have to do with, our attitudes, especially towards certain things. What I do find is if I'm going to work and I feel like I'm accomplishing something and I'm not too distracted with, technology, and I can deal with my home life, maybe have some hobbies at home, when I'm eating properly, getting enough food. The big difference, like when I go out to lunch, for example, there's different things I might eat for lunch, but when I eat a chicken sandwich, or a burger for lunch, it's always like within an hour I'm rearing to go for hours more. There's certain things that I can eat that will really boost my energy levels, and others not so much. And some things like heavy carbs that'll just make me tired. But my chemistry, my own body chemistry is very unique, just like everyone else's. But I have a very high metabolism. I process things extremely fast. For example, drinking, when it comes to beer, alcohol, if you will, I've found that, because I didn't drink much up until recent years, but during the times when I was drinking a lot more than I should have, I could drink a lot of people I know under the table. I was surprised at the small amount it took them to be saturated and just completely drunk. And I found the same thing when I eat food. I can eat very fatty foods, certain foods, and process them faster than other people. But that's neither here nor there. But everybody's diet is unique. Everybody's intake of substances is unique and should be dealt with individually. There are no experts out there who can tell you your diet unless they know you personally. In other words, unless you're having testing done on your particular body chemistry and somebody who knows you can look at you and your physique and do blood tests, and it's hard to determine what's the best food for you, for one. And food equals mood. So when we talk about happiness, we know that food is one of the, if not the most important thing when it comes to well-being. And that can be a tricky one because a lot of the food is overprocessed, convoluted crap that just, the way these companies sell you this shit. Like I made a video about how I'll never eat fake meat the other day. And I watched this documentary about how that stuff's processed, the synthetic heme that they put into it, and all the different weird unknowns, even at this point. That if you stick to just raw natural foods, that's often said to be the very best for your mood. But at the same time, we also get a little over paranoid about processed foods. Some of them are fine, and it depends on what you mean by processed. Kind of like artificial flavorings or colorings. Are they necessarily dangerous? We don't know. Some of them may be. We do testing. But it's confusing as hell to figure out what the best diet for any one person may be. But the best way to go is by feel. And honestly, how do you feel after you eat certain foods? But anyway, when it moves past food, we get into the relationships people have, and often the things that hold us back from being happy are the people that we spend time with. Miserable fucking people. There are some shitty people out there, and whenever I meet somebody who's a shitty person, who I consider a shitty person, rather, and they have a spouse or significant other, I think, man, this person's got to deal with this person all the time. whether it be a man or a woman, or whoever in the relationship is the asshole. There's always one asshole, it seems like. Maybe in my relationship I'm the asshole. I don't know. But I try to be a nice person, a kind person, not harm others. I try to do my part, and I've found if I just leave other people alone, they tend to leave me alone, and that makes me happy. So I'm going to flip through these comments here and just say hello to everybody in the room. Hello, Amy. Good to see you. Hello, Damon Links. Hello, Freestyler. Hello, Metal Mania. Love it. Metal Mania all the way. That's great. Hello, Adam. Hello, Spinning Wheels. He says, step 1, stop eating meat and contributing to the factory farming suffering, please. Well, how do you know that I don't eat meat that wasn't factory farmed? Anyway, got Adam. All right. And Ian, red slime was a real thing. Yes, it was. Then we've got Satellite Man. We've got M. Lebowski. Day of the Fool today. Yeah, I was going to make an April Fool's joke. I just couldn't do it. Spinning Wheels. Eating meat makes people angrier and more ignorant. Avoid eating meat in Eastern traditions, that very reason. It's actually not true, my friend. In India and many different cultures, they do eat meat. They may not eat certain meats. They don't eat cow, perhaps, but they eat meat. So, and they actually released uh-oh, something happened to my thing here. I must have bumped something. I flipped the screen. There we go. They found out that there's this, just ironically over the last week, they had a thing about how plants scream. They've been able to measure that plants actually let out their own scream. We've talked about this for years, but that plants are completely aware. They're connected with fungi. So when you eat a plant, you're causing that plant harm as well, and perhaps death. It's just that you just can't win. But humans need to eat meat. I don't care. You can find a way around it if you want, but it's ironic because you are spinning your wheels. No, not to joke with the screen name there, but to say eating meat makes people angrier and more ignorant is actually a very ignorant thing to say, because eating meat is theorized to be what allowed mankind to develop the thinking capacity to move out of the Stone Age, if you will. That by eating meat, it's a more readily available protein to our bodies. And once we learned to cook meat, we could take these proteins and our body could break them down into the amino acids and build the different proteins that we need personally. And so no matter how you look at it, at least historically, people who ate meat were much better off than those who didn't. And it was a highly desirable commodity. And we do live in a world where we can perhaps circumvent that by buying certain supplemented foods or taking vitamins, but many of those vitamins are ultimately derived from animal proteins. And so really, you just can't get away from it. It's the world we live in. And I understand people's personal choices. I have nothing against people who choose to be vegetarian, but the idea that saying eating meat makes people angrier is actually the direct opposite, because or ignorant, because it actually makes them less angry because they have the proteins that they need to not be frustrated, because we're only angry when we're looking for food. Once your body's satisfied, that satisfaction allows your body to produce more serotonin, which in turn makes you more relaxed. So, eat a burger, bro. You'll be fine. Freestyler, what's up? He says, I focus myself in salads. I like a really good chef salad or a Cobb salad. That's one of my favorites. Yeah, I didn't even eat salads till I was in my 20s. It's crazy. I love certain vegetables, certain fruits, but there's a lot I won't eat. But I just was never really introduced to salad. I'll tell you why I stopped eating salads. Oh God. In 6th grade for outdoor school, I remember there in this cafeteria, right? And all the sixth graders were in there, and they wanted me to try the salad that they had. And I did not want to try it. I'm like, no, I don't want to eat it. I want to eat something else. And of course, these pushy-ass bitch teachers insisted that I eat a piece of fucking lettuce. And so they made me eat it. And by the way, this didn't have any dressing or anything. They just wanted me to eat a piece of lettuce. So I did, and I gagged and like puked. And they're like, all right, you don't have to eat it. And from that day on, they kind of ruined my desire for salad. So I just never ate one until years later. Satellite Man. April Fool's is your birthday, huh? Well, happy birthday, my friend. Okay, Five Guys is factory farmed beef. Oh yeah, well I will cut corners. I mean, I'm not going to say that I won't always ever eat. I just don't care. It seems like it makes other people more frustrated than people eat meat. But it's funny, hooved animals actually existed in the West. I found out that the land has degraded faster because they're not busting the land up and spreading seeds around in their manure. Kind of the irony of killing off the buffalo, but man has existed with beast forever, and nobody's ever going to convince me that eating meat is a bad thing. So, Amy says, I cut out red meat and feel better for it. When I eat it on occasions, I get an upset stomach. That's actually pretty common. I've heard that a lot. I eat red meat very rarely, and you know, I eat it sparingly. I think I might eat beef maybe twice a week tops, but usually more like once a week. And chicken maybe twice a week, but not large portions. It's really about just personal consumption, responsibility. Hello, James Keegan. He says, howdy from Ireland here. Nice, my friend. Nice. Good to see you. Ireland is close to my homeland of Scotland. Not my homeland, but my ancestors'. Yeah, craving orange juice. Yeah, but that's actually the thing. I have an issue. It's funny you point that out. I have an issue with like replacing certain diets with like fruit juices because it's just sugar. You know what I mean? Like you're literally just consuming vast amounts of sugar. And people have made the argument that fruit sugar is different. It doesn't matter whether it's fructose or, sucrose. The same way that honey, your body doesn't treat honey any differently than sugar either. People who spend the extra money to put honey in their coffee or tea, if you're doing it for the flavor or for the extra antibiotic benefits, that's a good thing. But it's not actually any different. It's still sugar. And that's what sucks because our brains run on glucose. I mean, we need it to survive. It's how our ATP is produced in our cells. Like we literally have these little explosions. It's biology beyond my expertise, but it's pretty amazing when you look at it. We're these little factories, and yeah, it's pretty interesting shit. It really is. Just be thankful for food. Amen to that, my friend. Hisham, good to see you, my friend. He says, what do you think about pescatarians? I'm not familiar with the term, actually, at all. Sorry. I don't know what a pescatarian is. Maybe I'm out of the loop on that one. But look, I'm kind of the basically, and this I guess is a great segue into the discussion again about happiness and what I've learned personally. All I can do is share with you the experiences I've had. I don't think that I have the truth or the answers to life. I definitely don't think I have it figured out. That's why sharing with other people, I get feedback from you all. And I love it because then I can think about it. And sometimes I think about shit deeply and like, wow, maybe that's true. And it might take years for that seed to take fruition. Eventually that soil is fertile enough and maybe just enough water hits it to where it can sprout an idea. And I think, wow, okay, I was wrong about this. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe I was right about this. I love being wrong. I've been wrong about a lot in the past, especially a lot of strong opinions I had when I was younger about religion, about even climate change, weird, random things. But the thing I gotta say is that I've found that most people want to argue over stupid shit. And the minute that you tell a person, well, I'm not quite sure about that, I don't really have a strong opinion because I don't know. I realized this morning when I was sitting there thinking about this, how many times I've said, well, I'm not sure because I don't have all the info on that. How few times I've heard that from other people. That they just don't know. I feel like it's almost become a sin for people to say that they're unsure of something. And this goes for both things that are positive and negative. Things that people think that they know for sure, that is absolute fact. Jesus is going to return, right? Whatever it may be. Absolutely nothing to support it, but this is what's going to happen. Whereas there's another person who insists that somebody else's belief isn't true. The exact opposite of this, right? You don't know either. Neither one of you know shit. None of us know very much. We're all just trying to navigate this crazy globe together. And every time I sit back and think about how weird it is just to be a human, I just laugh at the absurdity of people's bold claims about what they think to be true. And the reason this relates to happiness is because every time I find myself getting slightly frustrated with the world's issues or anything around me, other than self-created problems or issues in my own personal life, if I hear something and it triggers an emotional response in me of any kind, instantly sus. I dig into it. I'm suspicious about my own feelings on it because I know how easy it is to be manipulated, how easily propaganda infiltrates, especially the American public, because people are so easily swayed by biased bullshit. I mean, you would believe some of the texts I get from people I know, intelligent people, friends and family, and people I don't, I have several different little groups that I connect with, and there are some extremely intelligent people, and then some people who come across as intelligent but really don't know shit, and then there are the people that are just utter dumbasses, who don't think anything through, but think that they're geniuses. And it comes down to that old, the less you know, the more you think you know. Or the Socratic, Socrates saying, the greatest wisdom lies in knowing you know nothing. I find that ignorance might just be bliss for a lot of people, because the more you learn about a specific topic, the more you try to argue your truth about that topic, the more you find you get resistance. And the world doesn't like philosophers. In fact, it never has. They were kicked out of Rome. It's the same thing happening today. People want folks that will stay by their side and agree with what they believe in. So the point I'm getting at here is that if you want to be a happy person that's left alone, you can't make waves. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can sit here and talk about controversial topics on YouTube because I'm a nobody. But if I had a channel that had, say, 10 million viewers, and I started talking about some of these same topics, started talking about, BlackRock and corruption in the government, then I'd have all of a sudden, a sight on my head. I would have people out to get me, and that would make me unhappy because I'd be worried. In other words, sticking your neck out is considered a bold move, but when you have you're a public figure, it can almost degrade the happiness. So be happy if you're just kind of a nobody who can just ramble and talk about the things you want, where you're not going to be quoted for every thought you have. And I guess maybe that's my way of saying be happy even if you're poor and you're not one of those wealthy guys. What a pain in the ass to deal with other people quoting you on everything you say. You know what I mean? And having to question your own friends. So part of happiness is that alchemy of seeing a situation and saying, that's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not what we think it might be. People aren't just happy because they're rich. They aren't just happy because they're a Chad, sexy guy on the beach. These are people who have issues like anybody else. And so part of happiness, I hate to go back to the 10 Commandments because I've always laughed at it. I remember George Carlin making it like the Three Commandments by breaking it all down. Basically, don't be a dick, don't steal, don't lie, don't kill people. But there are certain things in there that make you wonder, especially about not coveting other people's goods. That doesn't mean that you can't desire to have other things, but that's kind of part of what drives people, and sometimes it can drive them to madness because they think they won't be happy until they've obtained something else. And of course, these were written in a time when people didn't have the option to just pick up a Ferrari. The American dream wasn't alive yet. And the American dream still exists, in the sense that people who want to work their asses off, can still find what they consider happiness in that material wealth. And so be it. I mean, I just want some farmland and some acreage to roam around on, and I'd be happy. But, yeah. I'm a simple man. Sometimes we have to maybe cut our expectations short to be happy and not pretend that we know what we need and know what we want. To recognize what we have. I'm warm. Well, I'm kind of cold. I'm out in my office, but technically I'm warm in my home and safe. And that's more than a lot of people can say. So even though they say comparison is the thief of joy, I think that might have been Mark Twain that was quoted as saying that. Comparison is the thief of joy, but it can also bring you joy. In the sense that if you compare yourself to those who have more, it might take your joy. But if you compare yourself to those who have it worse, it can increase. And there's nothing wrong, there's no shame in looking at somebody who has less and saying, I'm grateful for what I do have. In fact, gratitude is going to bring us more happiness than anything else. And I think a lot of people don't have gratitude. There's a YouTube channel, I think it's Peter Santinelli, I think is his name. And he does these, 40-minute interviews with these every, Saturday, I think. And the one today, he was interviewing a millionaire. Really nice guy. Moved here from Syria. Watched movies in this movie theater in Syria. I wanted to get the hell out of there. Turned 18. Moved to the U.S. with a passport and $400. Wanted to be a movie director. Now he has a mansion. He talked about how he's been to 80 different countries. And still, Americans just don't know what they have. They don't know how good they really have it. The ability for me to sit here behind my camera and just talk about these things is something we just take for granted often. In some countries, my live stream would be cut the minute I talked shit about the government or their pandemic response, right? Or you bring up something about the corruption within these institutions and BlackRock, and all of a sudden your stream's cut and you get deleted. It's a real thing in a lot of places, and I think it's just important we have gratitude for what we do have, because we act like a bunch of little bitches a lot of the time in America, at least in the U.S., and I don't know how many of you are from the U.S. and how many aren't. So I need to go back. I see the comments. I'm going to fucking flip back through them. Oh, that's a great point, Lebowski. It's something I wanted to point out in the video I made the other day. It says, being choosy with food is a luxury that most people in the world don't have. That is absolutely true. And you know what? That also is a great point. In other words, if meat's in front of you, you're going to eat it. But there was another point. I read this, and I'm not sure if it's true, but apparently in Islam, I wanted to know why pork was considered a filthy meat that you shouldn't eat, besides the obvious reasons. But there must have been something more to it. Well, it turns out that raising pigs, they eat food very similar to what humans eat. And also, they don't produce any other goods. Leather, right? No milk, no leather, no other goods except just the meat. And it takes them a while to grow. Whereas with goats and cows, you can get milk in the meantime. And apparently they banned it because of the fact that it was a wasteful meat that was eating people's scraps that actually, during lean times, people could eat many of those. And there wasn't enough food for the pigs, and the meat wasn't worth it. They made an assessment of the value of having that meat compared to what they needed, and they found that it wasn't worth keeping pigs around. So it's kind of fascinating. Each region eats what it needs to eat to survive, and I've always found that pretty interesting. But I'm always grateful for what I have. You know, even if I have to eat something that may come from a, quote, factory farm, I try to buy free-range beef, get organic foods for what it's worth, you know? I mean, we're all trying here. We're just humans, and like a lot of people say, you can't always afford to be choosy. But like I can't shop at Chuck's Produce down the street. They have all organic, free range, everything, and it's like double the price of my other stores. And I'm just like, man, I can't necessarily afford that. Amy says the old quote from the Wizard of Oz: "How can you talk if you don't have a brain?" Well, I want to make some fun of you here, my friend. I love you. You said, "How can you talk if you don't have a Brian?" I just love it. I love irony there. Yeah, a lot of people without brains do an awful lot of talking, and I totally agree. I know exactly where you're coming from. There are a lot of dumbass motherfuckers out there, as George Carlin would say, and I want nothing to do with any of them. But you have to, because you got to work for them, and they got to work for you. Hector Cervera, good to see you, my friend. MC Cervera. Hello from Spain. It's 3 a.m. Got surgery for my knee. Thank you for being here and entertaining us. Well, fuck yeah, man. I'm glad you got your surgery done, and hopefully it was successful. And it's crazy to live in a time where we can actually have that done and, you know, have our bodies taken care of. That's another thing to be grateful for. You know, you're not in medieval times where you'd still be out on the stretcher. They'd be smashing your knee with a rock. You know? Yeah, and the Dunning-Kruger effect. Agree on that one. Hello, Nomad420. Good to see you. Hello, Vic Dick. Just discovered you live while I was posting a rare comment on one of your videos you posted today. You have a rare quality. How have you been, my friend? It's been a while. Good to see you, brother. I appreciate you. Okay, Hisham says, what are your true thoughts about the LGBTQ plus community? Oh, I like your humbleness. I mean, do you really want my true thoughts on the LGBTQ community? I mean, it seems like you're putting me on the spot there, because that would just get me attacked no matter what I said. But I think that a majority of the community wants to be left alone to handle themselves and their own issues with their families and their friends. And a very small percentage are going out and screaming about how everyone should just accept them and that they're non-binary, they have no sex, and everyone should be able to address them a certain way. A very, very small percentage, like 1%. And those people are magnified by the media. People like Tucker Carlson and Fox News, totally blown proportion. They make it look like every kid is reading porn every day. There is a lot of fucked up shit going on out there. But I don't think that these issues are as big as we're making them out to be. I do think that because of this, and I'm not saying it's not a problem, even though a small percentage of that community are the ones causing the problems and making a ruckus, for some reason the government and Hollywood and everyone else is responding to it as if that's the final answer, that everyone agrees with everything people are saying. No, I do not believe there are 72 pronouns. No, I don't believe that there are 10 pronouns or even 5 pronouns. I believe in this. I believe that they're the most standard format of looking at humans is that there is a man and a woman. They are different biologically. We are different generally, but there are some women who are more masculine and some men who are more feminine. There are also people who are born intersex. In fact, I knew one. And in very rare instances, which can be caused by lifetime issues or abuse in childhood, many of these things can cause people to feel like they aren't comfortable in the skin that they're in and believe that they're another gender. And I do not believe that surgery is going to solve their problems. I've read the statistics that say that suicide can be the same regardless of whether or not you are pre or post-op. And, you know, really, I've already gone too far even talking about this because I'm probably already somebody's red in the face, angry at something I've said. Don't really care, you know. too bad, so sad, because I actually care. I have a friend who's trans, and it's a very difficult thing. I was talking with another friend who's like, well, if you met somebody and they were a certain gender and then they changed genders and wanted you to just accept that, is that your obligation? Because you made a deal. It's a contract when you make a friend with somebody. People have never really mentioned this, and I think it's important. If you made a contract with somebody that you made a friend with somebody to who you thought they were at the time, and they wanted to be somebody different, and they choose to be somebody different, no, you're really not obligated. But you stick by people that you truly love and care about in your life. And so if you have somebody in your life who's going through that shit, stand by them. I definitely have nothing against the community. I just think that a few are blowing it out of proportion. Just the same way that even the black community, a lot of them cringe at the way that BLM handled what happened. BLM, by the way, who raised all this money, they bought mansions for some of the BLM founders. This is a fact, and you can look it up yourself. It's pretty fucked up. They claim that it was for helping the community, but when you see that when people get a little bit of power, it just turns into a fucking nightmare. That's what's happening. People's voices are being magnified by the internet, and there's become this false illusion that all of a sudden, overnight, in a decade, everyone's gay or trans. It's really silly, and I think it's blown out of proportion. That doesn't mean that we have to demean those who do truly need help, and that's the hard part. We don't know. But TikTok really has caused a major, complete ridiculous, like, how do I say it? It's created a place where people can go and pretend like they have illnesses that they don't have to get attention. And this isn't just trans. This is about Tourette's. This is about people claiming they have, quote, anxiety. I mean, that's the funniest one to me. Welcome to the big boys world, my friend. We all have anxiety. But I think that when people realize that they can use certain things as a crutch or as a way to a defense mechanism, then they started doing that. And it doesn't mean all people are doing that, but it's so confusing right now that nobody knows how to talk about these issues. And I've already said too much. So I'm just going to continue through the comments. Thanks, Hisham. You made me fucking talk about the trans community. Dick. I'm kidding. Fiasco. Thumbs down. I don't know how to take that one. The one words I can never tell. Shane Coker says, do you think phytoestrogens are something to be concerned about? I don't know what that is. If you're talking about people getting hormone treatments, yeah, I think it's a big problem. I really do. I feel like if you feel like you identify a certain way, you shouldn't need to take hormones to achieve what you already feel like. I can't put it any plainer. Yes, Amy. Yes, if you change, you don't have to make. Shane Coker says in food. Oh, that's a great. I'm guessing. Okay, if you're talking about in food, then you're probably talking about. Okay, I'm gonna do this right now. We're gonna do the old Alex Jones. They make the frogs gay. No, I can't even do it. I can't do it. They're making the frogs. They're making the frogs gay. It's a real thing. Everybody makes fun of Alex Jones for saying that, but there is shit in the water that is making, these synthetic estrogens and whatnot that can actually maybe be causing some of the femininity that is happening within people too. And I don't know. It's complicated because we live in a very polluted world, and that makes it hard to be happy. It makes it very hard to be happy when you look around and see all the pollution and you know we're all being affected by it and you don't know how to deal with it. Thanks, Metal Mania. That was actually a good impression. I did a good one earlier in the house, but I need more echo, more boom to do the Alex. But I can do the Alex voice. Believe it or not, I'm pretty good with impressions, and I like to laugh and make fun of stupid shit. Make the frogs gay! But no... Look, I was introduced to Alex Jones back in the 90s, okay? So I go way back with Jones. I read a book called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper, and Jones took a lot of William Cooper's shit. He died in, I think, the early 2000s in a gun battle in his driveway because he said he'd never give up his guns, and he had some charge that they came and he shot at them and they shot back and he died, and they said it was a conspiracy to shut him up, but really his books were out. It didn't matter. And he was my first introduction to MK Ultra and the projects the government was doing, testing on soldiers in Vietnam. And my dad was in Vietnam, so that shit interested me. And he died of cancer right around the time I read the book. And he died from carcinoma, which was probably caused by Agent Orange. And it started this whole kind of distrust of the government. Wow, they sent my dad off to war knowing he was going to be in a jungle full of chemicals. What the fuck's going on here, you know? And I was smart enough not to ever join. But, you know, Alex Jones took a lot of that guy's info after he died and turned it into his own and claimed it was his own shit. So whenever I talk shit about Alex Jones, I feel like I'm fucking grandfathered into that shit, motherfucker. I mean, like, what, 97? I think 96, 97. So at least 25 years I've known about Alex Jones, and you know, so it's not like I've just heard him and say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. It's the old, if you throw enough fucking, you know, throw enough shit on the fire, you know, it's that old saying that if you're wrong enough times, eventually you're going to be right. And he was the guy who wanted to call everybody out for being liars the day after something happened. I watched the day after Sandy Hook, the way he dealt with that. And let me just say that he was completely in the wrong. And within 5 hours of that event, he was already talking shit about it. So saying that everything was fake. Nobody can know that quick. And that was the problem. He was the turning point of where independent journalism actually had a chance to do something good. A lot of them would go out and do things. I saw something earlier today that just cracked me up. I laughed out loud, man. I watched an MSNBC thing. I don't remember what it was. It was a YouTube video. I clicked on it, and they were quoting a Vice article. They were referencing a Vice article, but not to criticize, but rather to do their own journalism. And it just cracked me up to no end. I thought about 10 years ago, people were just making fun of Vice as the losers. And now mainstream media quotes Vice. Fox does it, NBC, they all do it, CNN, because believe it or not, as much as people might hate Vice, and believe me, they do some stupid, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a cocaine bong. They've done some really dumb shit. But there's like two sides to it. The extreme stupid shit. And then, holy crap, these fucking Vice reporters really went into this zone and fucking bared their balls to go out and fight, you know, catch this, you know. They are doing more, some of the Vice reporters, than anybody else. I mean, they got serious balls. And I would highly recommend some of their actual journalistic episodes. But but now I saw the mainstream quoting them, and I thought of just how funny it was that they don't do any of their own journalism anymore. And yeah, brave new world, man. A brave new fucking world, gotta say. Not all gay men are feminine. Oh, you're absolutely correct. No, I agree. I didn't say that, though. Jacob's Ladder. Oh, man, I forgot about that movie. Bobby Boucher. Good to see you. Says, yeah, some Vice are stupid clickbait and some are awesome. Hamilton is cool. Dude, Hamilton's his own man. Hamilton fucking goes out and does the shit. He's got his own YouTube channel, and he also does, he's done some interviews with, you know, I don't know if Hamilton ever interviewed Shulgin, Alexander Shulgin. If you don't know who he is, he's like a psychedelic pioneer. Him and his wife Anne Shulgin lived up in the hills in Cali and made tons of psychedelics. He kind of rediscovered, if you will, MDMA and made like hundreds of novel compounds that he tested, including 2CB, which I very much adore, and made LSD and other psychedelics available to a lot of people and new substances, and was a really, really wise old man. And Hamilton is kind of following in those footsteps, but as the reporter, if you will. He's invested a lot of time into interviewing various psychonauts, ex-chemists, a lot of ex-prisoners who used to make anything from meth to MDMA to LSD. And let's just say, it's a funny world to live in. Like, you can't hide this chemistry from the world. There are going to be people that are going to make drugs. One of the scariest things right now is fentanyl. And I'm so glad it didn't exist when I was young, because it has ruined drugs. Let me just put it this way. Fentanyl, this just came into my mind. Fentanyl has ruined drugs the way AIDS ruined sex. Because if you go back to the 80s, that's exactly what people were worried about. They're like, well, fuck, at least with chlamydia, I might get the clap or gonorrhea, right? Might get herpes, but it wasn't going to kill me. Whereas you get AIDS, you're going to die, right? And AIDS, that's a whole controversial topic on its own that may have been brought in on infected polio viruses or vaccines, but yeah, don't want to get into that. There's a lot to be said about the fact that kids today have to be a lot more cautious, and if you do take drugs, be fucking careful. Don't be stupid. Test everything you take. I'm not fucking around. This is like the most important thing to any of the young. If you're in your 20s or teens here and you're listening to this and you take any type of drug anywhere, I don't care if it's blow, I don't care if it's tweak, I don't care what it is. And I mean, cannabis is going to be very rare to be, dosed with anything, but there have been cases of some, quote, CBD and THC, like edibles being laced with fucking fentanyl. And it makes it really hard to know what you're getting. And fortunately, they have test strips and all that, but you just got to be careful. I'm sorry to get off topic there, but it's kind of a safety message, and I think it's important to share that. But sorry, I had to look at the comments again to see where I got into that. Hamilton, yes, Hamilton Morris is fucking awesome. If you haven't seen him before, watch some of his videos. They're great. Watch the toad licking one. I think that was him. There's been a few. I've watched every psychedelic video I can. And I'd like to talk about psychedelics more, but I just feel like it just gets censored by YouTube. So I'm thinking about doing them just straight to like Patreon. Hint, hint, because they actually allow you to upload videos now. So I've just got to get around to doing that. Freestyler Partner says, Newsmax, the best mainstream media with a lot of sense of humor. Newsmax. Are they biased? I'm not familiar with them, so I have no comment. Bobby says, have P-Call. Yes, for anybody out there wondering, P-Call and T-Call are the two books that were written by Shulgin. Yeah, if there were no STDs, it would be dope, Shane says. Well, Shane, I would say, if there were no STDs and you can turn off your pregnancy button, right? I mean, isn't that what it is when you're young? People want to get laid. They're not as concerned about the diseases as they are of getting somebody pregnant. So, I guess that's what a condom is for, right? Be smart. Hello, Jai Gin Tonic. Finally catch Carpo live after so long. Love from Japan. Hope you are well. Well, awesome, dude. That's fucking cool. I've never had a viewer from Japan that I was aware of, and I was just thinking about Japan earlier. I'd fucking love to hear some stories about the differences in culture, because I was talking with somebody about, work ethic and the way that Japanese will sleep on trains. And they have these little like sleep areas in their airports, which to them is like normal. And not even airports, but like train stations and random places. And like they have these shops you can go in, I guess, where you can like nap in these little modules. Really tripped me out. And I thought about this, like the hustle culture and how we can relate in America because there's always this hustle, but not to that degree. And so hello and welcome. Hisham says, you're knowledgeable, but you would gain more through traveling and learn about different beliefs and culture. You're correct, Hisham. And let me just tell you, I agree with you 100%. And if you're willing to buy me a ticket to travel, please let me know. My dream is to travel the world. My wife and I have talked about going to Europe. We want to go to Europe and India. We want to see all these different areas, of history. But my God, I just don't have the money. I can't do it. I mean, and it sucks. I know that's an excuse. People say if you really want to do it, you can do it. It's true, but I would sacrifice other things. I've got kids. I've raised another son, and by the time he was 18, I've got 2 more kids now. And maybe when I'm older, if I am successful in my endeavors, maybe I'll be able to travel the world. I would love to. Believe me, I would absolutely love to. Satellite Man says, that's why weed should be legalized and standardized. It already is, man. I can buy it right down the street. But on the contrary, I want to say I don't believe weed should be legalized. I think weed should be decriminalized completely. That means basically eliminating any law against it rather than making a new law to regulate it. I don't believe in regulation. 70-80% of the taxes, all the money the weed growers go to taxes, and it all goes to the state, and then the federal government gets their cut. So the federal government will not legalize weed, yet they're more than happy to rake in all the states' monies. You know what I'm saying? Like, the states give that money, a revenue of that, a huge chunk of that cash they make from weed to the federal government, who still has people in prison for weed. So, fuck the feds. I'm a state guy. So anyway, sorry to get off track there. That's a soft spot for me, but it shouldn't be legalized. It should be left alone and let us deal with it, even if it's the Wild West of weed again, because they are not doing a very good job at it. Shane says, if everyone was polyamorous, there would be an efficient way to raise kids safely. I agree, only in small communities, maybe. But you have a large enough community, you're just going to walk away because that's just how dudes are. Hate to say it. Want to link up. Happy to talk anytime if you want to link up. Hell yeah, Jai-Jin. If I ever make it over to Japan, I'll hit you up. It's funny you said couch surfing, Hisham, because I was just thinking I should figure out where I made a video a couple of years back where I talked about that. Like, if I ever travel the world, fuck, I should hook up with some of my subscribers, and at least I'd be able to have somebody somewhat trustworthy to like tour and, maybe even help me find a place to stay where I wasn't going to get ripped off. I watched this video earlier about like tourist traps in Istanbul, Turkey. And they did this little documentary. I think it was DW, maybe another one, but it was a really good little documentary. This guy like went out with hidden cameras. These guys will like come up to you on the street and be like, hey, what's up? And introduce themselves and be like, oh, I show you a good place to get a beer. They take you in to get a beer, and then they kind of disappear. And then the waiter comes out, demands like $200 per beer. So they're charging like Americans like $1,000 for like 4 beers, and they can't pay it. But then these buff dudes come out and insist you pay it. And I'm like, dude, well, that's what you get for being a dumb fucking tourist. But still, it's fascinating. If you have somebody with you that knows the, system, you don't have to get screwed over. So yeah, if I ever travel, I'll be hitting up some of my subscribers and say, what's up? Grounded Extracts. Good to see you. I don't recognize your name, my friend, but welcome to the chat, brother. Yeah. I'm assuming you're a brother. So where's everyone's number one country where they'd like to visit and haven't, says Amy. That's a really good question because I've never actually thought about it. I would say if my wife and I could visit anywhere on Earth, it would depend on whether everything was paid for or not. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I had to pay for all my own lodging, it would be a cheaper place, Mexico or something, I don't know. But probably Italy. I want to go to the V&A Museum. I want to see some of the European museums and do like a tour and really look live at some of the jewelry and custom art that's been created. The beautiful thing about art is that artisans create it, sell it for a modest price, and then, quote, art dealers sell it back and forth to each other. They are like the rapists of the art world. That's how I've always seen it. This kind of false market. It's the same way. There's always somebody to make money off of your labor, but it's just sad. Art is so awesome, and I guess I'd want to travel to places where. But there's places in the Middle East I'd love to see the art too. So I have no idea. I don't know. Satellite Man says I worked for Honda, and the engineers sleep on the break room tables when working long hours. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, they do that with truck drivers and doctors too. It's like, I don't know, certain people should just not be, should be able to go home and sleep on their own damn pillow, especially people who are that important. You know what I mean? I don't know. Hello, Leon. Brussels, huh? Nice. You'll always be welcome to visit Morocco or Turkey. See, I was just talking about Istanbul and all the scammers down there. So I'd have to make sure that you were leading me around. Nice. Have a cabin in the mountains. Nice. That's dope. Dude, that'd be fucking dope. I would love to travel. Honestly, if I felt like I had a place to stay and like felt comfortable in a place, I'd be more likely to visit, because it's not that I can't just afford an airline ticket, but you know, I'm not a wealthy man, all right? You know, I work 30 hours a week and I'm making what I can. I don't want to be wealthy is the thing, but there's part of me that does, just so I can do these things. And so I'm hoping that I can push myself in the next few years to make more money and go out and do these things, get tickets and travel to these places. Gotta be awesome. It's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. Adam, you ever want to venture to Oregon? I got you. That's good. Good one. Yeah, I work in Oregon, of course. You know that. I've got a lot of friends in Oregon, and I live in Washington State, right over the bridge from Oregon in Vancouver, so. Found this on my business channel. Much love, brother. Well, thanks, Grounded Extracts. I've been watching the Vulgate series, says Metal Mania. I'm not sure what that is. But let me just say, it's been really nice having a conversation with people and being able to keep up with discussion. People's comments, and this is kind of really all I ever wanted from my YouTube channel, was to be able to sit here and have kind of a grounded group chat. It is kind of weird. You can go live with multiple people, but you know, I think it's just too complicated probably. But just being able to comment and respond to you all, it's nice. And I'm glad I did this one kind of earlier, you know, in the day than usual. It says, traveling is my school, nature is my temple, doing good is my religion. Yeah, I try to do the best I can, and I think good is often an issue of perspective. I don't know exactly what that would be. In other words, I say that half sarcastically, but as a liberal-minded person, I want to do the best for people, but sometimes I feel like tough love is the best option. So I feel like a dick because I don't feel like just throwing money at all the problems and making sure everybody's comfortable, that everyone's protected, that basically, you know, treating everyone like a snowflake. I don't think that's the best solution. I know that's not what you were talking about, but it just got me thinking about, all I want to do is be kind to people, but sometimes being kind means being an asshole. Do you know what I mean? I feel like as a fucking long-haired hippie liberal dude, right? Mind you, my hair's tied back and it's driving me nuts because it pinches. Let that freak flag fly, right? As a long-haired liberal hippie dude, I feel like I need to speak up about things that other long-haired liberal hippie dudes just don't fucking get. And that's because it's kind of like a conservative who gets labeled as a Nazi. Like, I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a racist. That's how I feel when people are like, oh, you guys are all idiots. You don't get it, you know. But doing good, as you said, that's a hard one for me because I don't know exactly what that is. Like, I'm always wrestling with what the best process should be for humanity, to be the best humans we can be. And I'm sure you all have fought with that one too, you know. Hisham says good means kindness. No, I get that too. But what it's like, which kindness? The kindness where you kick the shit out of somebody because they deserve it to protect another person, or the kindness of just waving and saying hi. It's hard for me because, okay, let's put it this way. My root instinct makes me want to be a peaceful, kind person, smile with everybody, be kind to everybody I meet. But when I see somebody who is putting another person down or harming them, I feel like it's my job to step in. I feel like I need to rescue people in a way. Not rescue like, sometimes it's not my business, but sometimes I have to make it my business, right? Just say something witty to somebody who's being an asshole to their wife or their kid or a stranger, a clerk at the checkout. It doesn't matter. If you're a jerk to other people, you're going to get called out by me. You know what I mean? That's just how I am. And I think that's a dick move. Shut up, mind your own business. But I can't. So that means there's a subconscious part of me that says I have to protect other people when I see them being wronged. And I can't get away from it. I can't. And I don't want to. I don't want to. Jack Novak. What vendors or strains of kratom are you currently taking? I don't know anymore and don't care. Honestly, the kratom I'm taking right now is from 25 kilos I bought about 2 years ago. I'm taking 2-year-old kratom right now. And when that's gone, I've got 3-year-old kratom that I'm taking as well. It works fine, but I'm not... I haven't bought anything new in like at least a year, so... I don't even know. It's just like a green Mangda or something. Amy says there's a lot of conservatives in Orange County whose messiah seems to be money. Yeah, well, fuck those people. The thing is, and what I've realized, it would, like, if people only respect other people for how much money they have, I don't really want their respect anyway. It's that simple. It's just that simple. Don't care. There's too many people to not care about those people. Hisham says, if you would have one wish, what would it be? I don't know. Never thought about it, really. Because it ain't going to happen. Oh, Adam says, anybody being rude to a clerk never worked a day of customer service should be a mandatory experience. I agree. Pete says, I worked pumping gas. So here's the thing people don't realize. In Oregon, of course, you couldn't pump your own gas. They've changed this, but you had to have an attendant pump your gas. And that pissed people off. But also the fact that they were rude and they had to get gas in the morning before work. So they were forced to come in. So, for example, my wife's a server at a restaurant. If somebody comes in, it's because they want to eat out. Just like if somebody... goes out to a museum and you're working at a museum, they're probably in a good mood because they want to be out. They want to be out. But a person in their car in the pouring rain going to work, they don't give a fuck about you. They pull up, they'll roll down their window like half inch, be like, fill it up, check the oil. Complete assholes. I remember telling this guy once, we don't check oil, and he just got all on my case. I actually kicked a guy out of our place once because he was such a rude customer. And ever since then, just seeing how rude customers can be, I will never be rude to a clerk. The people who are rude to clerks are some of the worst people ever. Even somebody I know well, he told me one time that he threw the change at the attendant at the toll booth at the local bridge. And I've just never forgot that in like 20 years. I'm like, you threw money at the dude who was operating the toll booth? Like, you think it's his fault? You think he owns the bridge? But people want to take it out on other people. So never, ever, please don't take out your aggressions on the people around you. It's not their fault that you're pissed off. Oh, sometimes it is, but... Oh, I have no idea, Adam. Gave a free upgrade. That's nice. Awesome. Yeah, dealing with the public can suck. Grounded extracts. Yep. Adam says, I did front desk at a hotel by Portland Airport. Super stressed out travelers nightly. Yeah, that would be a tough one. And honestly, I can't really blame them in that case because, dude, that's a case where you're not really. That would be another instance where shit can get lame is in motels. Because not everybody who's going to a motel wants to be there. Sometimes it's a travel. And I guess that can be tricky. And we also, as humans, have to realize other humans are sometimes going to be in a bad mood, not feeling well. I mean, that's just how it is. So. I don't know. I try to give people as much space as I can, as much credit as I can. They're just humans. Hisham says, how many languages do I speak? Oh my God, my friend, you're embarrassing me. Dude, I'm just a hippie dude from Portland. I speak English. But se habla español un poco. Un poco. You know, a little tiny bit. I speak a little bit of Spanish. Enough to where I can pretend that I know like 10 words. And that's about it. No, I really speak English. That's it. That's my thing. And I wish I had learned languages when I was younger, but I didn't. And I got to stand up for a minute and stretch my legs. Oh, God, it's been an hour sitting on that stupid seat. In the meantime, you should all read a book about mythology. No, actually, this is a pretty badass book I picked up at I don't know where, but it's pretty much like all pictures and stories. You know, once in a while you find one of those books at like Barnes and Noble or something that are just, wow, this thing is like $5 and it has all this in it. Of course, that was like 15 years ago. They don't have any fucking bookstores anymore because everybody just wants to order everything online. It gets difficult, doesn't it? I mean, trying to figure out where we're all going. Sorry, I'm out of picture because I'm vaping and it's just so tacky. I've got videos of myself when I was in my mid-30s where I was actually just sitting there with a cigarette smoking. And not only that, back then I hadn't got my teeth fixed yet. Yeah. Look at all the money I spent. That's all my savings from my kratom business. And they'll probably fall off because they're all crowns. Yeah. Don't even want to go into that. But yeah, there's a video I found where I had my teeth were still screwed up and I was missing a tooth and I had no beard and short hair and I was smoking a cigarette talking on my front porch and I thought, oh my God, how embarrassing to look like such a slob. But here I am. I've got teeth, but I'm still a slob, right? I'm still just a dude vaping on camera. That's no different than smoking. I'm going to tell you why. And it's a secret. I haven't told anybody ever. I'm a human being. A human fucking being. And I'm doing the best I can. Whatever, it's too late. It's already going to get demonetized anyway. It's not like I'm going to make any money off of a live cast. You can monetize your live cast so people can donate, but afterwards it's not like it really gets viewed because, so they usually demonetize it after the video. Glossolalia. Okay, that's another one, Adam. Yeah, you caught me off guard there. DMT. I've got some really good stuff that I obtained. Some pharma grade DMT that I tried by a campfire about a few years back. And I've still got just enough for like, I don't know, maybe 100 milligrams, like a really good dose. And I'm just waiting for the right time to try it. But I honestly have found myself separating from psychedelics, okay? I have been fascinated with psychedelics my whole life. I've been wanting to continue taking them for so many years, every year pretty much. But the last couple of years, let me put it this way. Since COVID started, I haven't taken any psychedelics. And that's really weird because we had all this time off, my wife and I together. We both loved LSD. Well, no, that's not true. Okay. Yeah, for our anniversary, we went up and took some LSD, but I haven't taken any mushrooms in several years. And I'm actually thinking about tonight. So I'm kind of debating, and it's this kind of fear factor that comes up where you know you need it. It's like taking medicine that you know is going to be tough to get through. But you know when you come out on the other side, you're going to feel great. Because to me, I like to take large doses, not like a little puny gram or two. I like to take like 5 grams of mushrooms. I like to go all the way in, at least an eighth. And so if I do that tonight, I've got the capsules made up and I'm ready to go. But Deemsters, DMT is a completely different monster. That's a really tricky one. I don't know. Metal Mania says, I found this channel by the tobacco growing videos. Nice. I'm pretty stoked. You'll find, if you find my channel, if any of you have started watching my channel in the last year, you probably have no idea how weird and obscure my shit can be. I will go from making videos about philosophy to making videos about politics to making videos about gardening. And as soon as spring's here now, I'm getting out my tobacco seeds. I've got so much tobacco, dude. I've got like this 3-year aged shamanic tobacco that I grew, which I could probably sell legally as quote incense, because it's just such an awesome thing to have. I have several different types. I've got it fermented and then dried myself. I've been experimenting with rolling cigars, but really I just like growing tobacco and rolling it. This stuff is like 6 to 10 times stronger than your standard fucking tobacco. You take one hit of this stuff and you're like, oh. Yeah, I'm still kind of experimenting. I guess it contains quite a bit of DMT too, 0.6% or something. But I don't know if that's actually active. But different types of tobacco. So, welcome. Tobacco's awesome. Ethan, good to see you. Where's this all going, you were going to say? No idea. Pay the gay away. Take him alone on a nature walk. Yeah, that might be fun. I'm thinking about doing like a 5-gram trip, like a hero dose just by myself. I was actually thinking about taking my car, driving out to the woods by myself, setting up a campfire, bringing some firewood, setting up, my night, and then taking like 5 grams of mushrooms by myself in the woods, or with a close friend. It's always good to have a friend with you, but I don't want any distractions. I really need to think. But there's also this point about 3 hours, 4 hours into the trip where I just want to talk to somebody. Maybe it would be fun to take mushrooms by myself in the woods, and then when I start coming down, like make a YouTube video, like a long YouTube video. That would be kind of fun. But I don't know if I want to share that because it's such an intimate experience, when you're tripping. But maybe I could do, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't even know why I share my private shit, because it doesn't pay off. It's like, some of you might know Psych to Substance. He was a YouTuber. He's still here. He talks about psychedelics, but he kind of went off the deep end for a while. Then he got into bodybuilding, and then he left the internet. He left YouTube. Then he came back, and I guess he had issues with his kids, because he was afraid his kids were going to get taken away, because he was always talking about drugs. And I have kids, so when I talk about psychedelics, it worries me. I don't want their friends or my neighbors to be watching my live cast and be like, oh, he's a druggie. But, there is a point where psychedelics, as I say, I talk about them because I revere them, and I want to keep them available for future generations. And the attached to them is finally kind of waning just a little bit. But Hisham says, I knew your channel through the Aryan, the guy who has a YouTube channel from South Africa. Oh man, I don't know what that one is. Hey, Mark Dreams. He says, I heard you say something about shrooms. I'm actually getting ready right now to take 5 grams of shrooms in an hour. Yeah, enjoy. Yeah, psychedelics are a tool for me that I use very rarely and sparingly, and I've learned the respect. I've taken hundreds of times. I mean, all the way back from like 1989 or 90, when somebody told me that if you take acid 7 times, you're legally insane. There were all kinds of theories back then and bullshit, like urban legends. But it's important to be fucking respectful with psychedelics. Be cautious with what you take. I've been known to hold on to mushrooms so long I throw them away. And I mean, I know a lot of people, old schoolers, might understand that. Like, I've had ounces I just had to toss because they were like 5 years old, because I don't take them very often. I let the psychedelics tell me when they're needed. When I was younger, they were needed more often because I needed to get my shit together. And every time they told me the same thing. And here's the irony about taking like LSD or mushrooms. If I go out to the middle of nowhere with some friends, for example, Soak is coming up. It's the regional Burning Man out here in Oregon. I was going to go. I didn't get tickets. I've been wanting to go. COVID fucked it up for a few years, and I haven't been. I went for like the last 10 years, but I missed the last 2 years because of COVID. And the last year they actually had it back open, but they weren't letting anybody in who didn't have a vaccination card. And so I was really disappointed. I said, so much for, freedom of expression, right? I don't have one. Can I just give you a negative test? But no, it didn't work. So this year I'm kind of maybe a little butthurt about it, but I didn't get tickets, and it's because there's more to it than that. But what I've realized is every year when I'm hanging out with friends and random strangers, I'm partying out in the middle of the desert, jumping around and doing crazy things, and sitting by fire pits and having great conversations. The one recurring thing that always comes to mind is my family at home. That's what matters to me, is my family, my kids, my wife. So no matter how much fun I'm having, I will never have as much fun as I have with my family. And that's something I've discovered that is repeatable, consistent, and therefore I find myself less interested in going out and partying and tripping by myself. Like, I'd rather take it with my wife or, with close people. And I've just learned how appreciative I am for the world around me and the people that I've cultivated in my relationship sphere, I guess. Sorry, I'm rambling. I go for a few more minutes and then I gotta go because I'm hungry. Amy says, I have a question. As a YouTuber, what do you think to these people who have near on 1 million followers and make lots of cash from channels where they film themselves eating takeaways? Eating takeaways? What do you mean? Is that like to-go food? I'm confused now. Eating takeaways. I'm sorry, maybe that's lingo I'm not familiar with. I mean, shit, there's people making millions of subscribers off of, what do they call that? Where they, mukbang. Yeah, where they just sit and like eat a whole shitload of food on screen. There's a lot of weird shit that makes money. I don't know what takeaways are, though. Most prophets had DMT. It's possible. Ram Dass. I love Ram Dass. Hey, Al it's good to see you, my friend. Different routes to it, usually via challenging experiences. Yeah, that's a really good point, Amy. In fact, I've had more revelations through my difficult experiences than I've had through any psychedelic experiences, but uh-oh. What happened? Oh, the card's full. It looks like I can't finish my podcast. That's okay. I'll just have to do it on video. It's more of a distraction anyway, right? Where was I here? That's a good question. Challenging experiences, yes. I don't remember where I was going with that. But I've never had a bad trip. I've had some deep trips, some interesting trips, but never a bad trip. So, but challenging experiences. If you think about a trip like life, then yeah, we all have challenging experiences all the time. But the man with no name says ayahuasca told me she was supposed to find me. Been postponing my trip for some months. Trepidation. Do you find ayahuasca interesting? That's a great question. I find ayahuasca extremely interesting. But through my whole growing up in my teen and 20s, 30s, I tried a lot of different LSD types. I tried a lot of different mushrooms. And my buddy made some mescaline citrate, which I took to Bonnaroo with me. I actually took a capsule of mescaline and watched Beastie Boys open up for Fish on the stage at Bonnaroo. It was fucking great. Excellent night. Then I went back to my tent late at night, fell asleep, woke back up, opened the tent, and I was still tripping because mescaline lasts, it's got legs, it lasts forever. But I have still to this day never taken ayahuasca, and I've debated wanting to try it. I've thought about it and decided that I don't want to try it. And I'm going to tell you why. Ayahuasca was very useful for the people who lived in the jungle who had access to ayahuasca. During the La Chorrera experiments, as they called them, which was when a couple of guys you might know, Dennis and Terrence McKenna, the brothers, went down to South America to look for the elusive ayahuasca, they ended up getting kind of stuck with these other tribes. In other words, they were looking for ayahuasca and the sources and the tribes, but they came across these other tribes that had these mushrooms. And they're like walking along like, oh, hey. Well, they grew on the cow patties. They ended up staying there and eating them. They stayed up for like 3 weeks. I think they wrote a whole book I read. It's fascinating. Terrence was up for like 3 weeks writing nonsense. Dennis claimed they were communicating with aliens. All this shit happened. But the point was that they found mushrooms and didn't need the ayahuasca. It wasn't necessary. Different tribes deal with different psychedelics. Our tribe, in the 60s, for example, their drug was LSD. It was the best they could get. But it wasn't until Gordon Wasson, I think in the 20s or 30s, went down to South America and found the mushroom because of these legends that he ended up bringing them back, but nobody cultivated them yet. So LSD was first, then mushrooms. Even though they'd been around forever, we just didn't have access to that knowledge. And then eventually peyote and mescaline, the cactus, we started figuring that out. And now we have hundreds of psychedelics, but really we're basically down to the main few. We've got mushrooms, DMT, LSD, 2CB, and a whole variety of AL-LAD, AL-LAD, and LAD and LBD. There's some. You could go on for hours trying to name all the different psychedelics, but you don't need any of that shit. Stick to the basics. Mushrooms are the revealers. Mushrooms are round, and LSD is triangular. It's more rigid. LSD is more social, whereas mushrooms are more interpersonal. People try to define it and tell you that it's hard to do because it's more complicated than that. But I think psychedelics are extremely important, but I reached a certain point in my life where I just realized I'd learned everything I needed to learn. I was having those same experiences. You can push it a little farther with ketamine or nitrous. I love nitrous, but eventually you got to say, dude, I'm just doing drugs, and that's bad for me. And I had to come to that conclusion in the last few years. I do other substances that are also bad for me, but if you do take psychedelics, you don't have to go too deep. That's all I'm saying. But I need to maybe try it. I figured, why would I want to take ayahuasca if I can take mushrooms and not puke? And I guess that, or be nauseous, and that's maybe the thing that's important to me. Husky Love Music says, dude, that was 2009. I was there. Yep, that was 2009. You're absolutely right. I was looking it up the other day. I was like, what year was that? Yep, that was a great year. I had a great time, dude. Great time. Chris said, people claim that while on ayahuasca, people experienced shared hallucinations. Yeah, people claim that on LSD as well and mushrooms, and I've experienced it myself, but also you can't confirm it. So it's kind of a tricky one. It seems like it's unnecessary. It's kind of like there's this guy named Keandi Lee who took an ounce of mushrooms, and back 10 years ago or so, it was kind of the big YouTube thing. This guy took an ounce of mushrooms, and he claimed he saw the Predator from the movie walk across his, living room. I was kind of like, at that point, I'd already been taking psychedelics for 20 years. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, how is this helping people spiritually? To hear a guy sitting up there pretending like he's some spiritual guru talking about how we saw the Predator from a movie walk across his living room. Okay, well, what did the Predator teach you? And the thing is, I've dealt with a lot of young folks who take lots of psychedelics and think that they're very deep. They think that I get the truth. I understand the universe. No, dude, you don't fucking get shit. You come back in 50 years from now and you tell me you still feel the same way you feel now, then we'll talk. But, when I was 20, all the shit that I was learning from psychedelics, I thought, this is life. It ain't. It ain't. It's a fucking false image of what's really going on. But it also teaches you personal truth. So the psychedelics will teach you all about yourself. But the illusions it'll give you are about the rest of society. You will learn some lessons like borders or just invisible lines, that kind of thing, that everyone is the same. But eventually you've got to fucking realize that psychedelics are trying to push you harder to build better relationships and not be selfish. That's what psychedelics teach me. Stop being selfish. Stop thinking that what I create or what I do is more important than what other people do. Don't think that, I can get away with just being a lone wolf. I need community. I need other people. That's what they always teach me. But that's me. Shane says, mescaline is one I want to try. You should. You can order the cactus legally online. Order it to a friend's house and try to make it yourself. Sprocaster says, LSD is way more fun to me. Yeah, it is. It's more fun to me, too. I agree. Because I can go out and interact with my friends. We can wander around at concerts and hike around and do all kinds of shit. Mushrooms are fucking just deep. As you said, mushrooms are way more healing. Yeah, they make me sit on my ass. And I also have a lot of, I picked and harvested my own azure essence, which can kind of knock you on your ass. You can't really stand up. Drum and bass music. That's the freestyler says, try drum and bass music. Well, actually, when I'm tripping, that's why I like Burning Man. I love the fucking D&B. Just go out and just get tribal at 2 in the morning. Dance like a fool, right? Al Ohm says, these are understood when practiced, not when sought. Yeah, sometimes. They can also be, the thing is, if you got to seek them in order to practice them too, so. Husky says, did you see the Mars Volta at Bonnaroo 2009? I'm not a big Mars Volta fan, I'm going to be honest. I have At the Drive-In LPs. I like At the Drive-In. But I'm not a Mars Volta fan. I don't know. Depends on what you grew up with. Shane says, do you think ChatGPT is self-aware? No, of course not. But then again, it may be by some measure. I just don't think most people are self-aware. So, maybe it is. It's as self-aware as a fucking idiot. As the dumbest human, probably. Get to the chopper. Freestyler says, really? Really what? Oh, I hate it when it's only one word. It's hard to tell. Wakuma. DMT is the experience of dying ego. Nausea sucks. Purging is part of the healing. I don't believe that, brother. The man with no name. I gotta say this. I want to make this very clear. I don't believe that purging is part of the healing. I know that it feels good to puke when you're fucking high and you feel sick. But sometimes I know people who take MDMA and puke almost every time because maybe they take too much or their stomach's not ready. But you purge and you feel a lot better. But I don't think that purging is, it's only part of the healing because it makes you feel better than you felt before. You can take psychedelics that don't make you purge. I've taken, like you said, I've tried LSD probably 300 times, and I've never, ever, ever had nausea off of LSD. It is a full blown just, it's an amazing experience, and so I feel like I just don't want that experience. I don't know, it's weird. Like Adam says, he gets clammy on mushrooms. Yeah, you can get a little clammy too. The way your body interacts with, these drugs, it's, I don't know. Hisham says, what's the difference between intelligence and wisdom? Well, intelligence is knowing how to process things. Wisdom is having knowledge on how to process things for a better life. I can't. That's the best I can come up with. In other words, yeah. Intelligence is the ability to process, but the wisdom is how to process that and use what you need to improve your life and those around you, especially. Satellite Man says, I've never done shrooms. It would scare me. It should. Yeah. No, see, I don't agree with Mark. I don't think that purging is part of the healing. Like I said, I stand by what I said before. I think that purging is just a side effect of imperfect psychedelics. A person should be able to take a psychedelic, have maybe a little nausea on the come up because that's natural. But look, I go into a cocoon or like a coma. I've taken psychedelics hundreds of times. I go into kind of my own private zone. All my friends and family know it. That's why I don't take it at concerts. I don't abuse it. I take it, well, sometimes. If I go to a Fish concert, sometimes I'll take LSD. But usually it's the afterglow that I want. It's the real healing comes the next day. That's what I was getting at, I guess. The healing comes the next day. Be cool if you grew a cactus a foot a year. I'd like to try that. That's why I like Hawaiian wood rose. Yeah, I haven't done wood rose seeds. I've never found any reason to take LSA because I have access to the best LSD I could imagine. And so I've never taken anything that makes me vomit since the first couple times I tried things. My friend gave me some ALLAD once, AL-LAD. That was a very interesting trip. It's almost like a trip without the trip. And there are so many different psychedelics, but I think all the psychedelics pale in comparison to a good mushroom trip. I do feel if a person's taking mushrooms more, or any psychedelic, more than once every, say, 3 months. Now, when you're young, you might be doing it more often, but I'm not going to get into that. If you're an adult and you know your psychedelics and you're taking them more than once every 3 or 4 months, I feel like you're abusing them and you probably haven't got the lesson you need to get, because psychedelics are like a book. You read that book and you get a lesson you need to know, a lesson that you already know often. But sometimes, years later, you forget that lesson. It's called continuing education. So every few months, every few years, you might take a psychedelic that will bring you back to that reality that you knew before. And that's extremely important. It's like this, oh yeah, oh man, I totally forgot that there are no borders. Oh, I totally forgot that I need to care about my family. I mean, if these are things you need to be reminded of. And that's why I haven't been taking them, because I'm content with knowing I know what I know now and not needing to know more or prove that I know more. Like, I don't know, it's weird watching kind of my different thoughts on how they've unfolded on YouTube. Giving a shit, not giving a shit, giving a shit. Experiencing psychedelics, being like, man, psychedelics, it's kind of an ongoing, lifelong journey. But I have to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to have to go here pretty quick. So, Pong Rip, says she. Chris, yes, you're correct, Chris. Maybe I should do a video just about psychedelics one time, like a live cast, then we could talk about it. Because it is a complicated, man. I mean, I think that psychedelics have only taught me as much as I can learn. At some point, I've got to actually go out and experience the world in order to better assimilate. In other words, to finish this on the wisdom tip, somebody's saying, what is wisdom and knowledge? Well, knowledge is knowing things. Wisdom is the time it takes to accrue that knowledge and condense it into a format which you can digest. Once you've digested that, psychedelics can help you digest that knowledge. But then you have to live for a while and say, how is this working? And reformulate. When I started my business, carpentry, I took psychedelics that inspired me to do it. When I started my kratom business, I didn't know what I was going to do because my back was all fucked up from carpentry. So I took MDMA one night and decided to start a kratom business. And then most recently, I'm ready to kind of start over again. And so I'm getting ready to take some mushrooms tonight. So maybe that's what I'll do. But I'll try to be moderate. I'll try to be respectful. Try to not abuse it. And maybe one day I'll make a live cast shrooming, and that would be fun. No, I'm kidding. That would be super private. Very private for me. So, thanks for coming, my friend. All of you. And I'll see you next time. It's never too late. Whatever the fuck you want to do. Donate.